Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gaur Premanandi Jab Nitya Leela Pravishtam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Stotarasata Divine Grace Shila Charnarabdinda Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Tai Gaur Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayarmudirayen Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana, the Amala Purana, the spotless evidence, and also the spotless narration of the Lord, endorsed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So every morning we listen and read and hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada arranged the morning program. It wasn't by any whimsical ideas. Prabhupada very, very scientifically arranged the morning program so that from the morning, from Mangal Arati until the Srimad Bhagavatam, when you leave, you already have all the 9 limbs of devotional service performed. So it's quite a very amazing thing. Prabhupada, how so sometimes people ask us, why you all are so fanatic, every day you all have to do this, you all have your other duties, but just like everybody has got their duties, making money and keeping their bodies strong for enjoyment. So this morning program is meant for the spiritual muscles for the living entity. Or you can say it's like a spiritual armor, okay, because when you go out in the day, you kind of, or you can always call it a spiritual vaccination from the virus called the material energy. Okay? So this canto is a very, in the beginning here, is quite an interesting, this in fact, the 11th canto talks about the Lord's departure. Typically devotees don't like to talk about the Lord's departure. So we celebrate the Lord's appearance, but we never celebrate the Lord's departure. For want of a better word, disappearance we call, but actually the Lord never disappears, like Prabhupada makes the example of the sun. The sun may not be visible to you after it sets, but the sun is there. Unmistakably the sun is there. Okay, so nowadays you can verify that. How can you verify that? Nowadays you got WhatsApp. Okay, when the sun sets, you can call your friend on a different time zone and ask, hey, is the sun still there? You can even put on a video call and verify that. Okay, so the sun never sets. In fact, it is said the sun never sets in the British Empire, they say, because the British Empire was so vast. At any one time, the sun is always there because it's so vast. I mean, it took so much of the earth, so at any one time, the British Empire, the sun never sets, it is said. So Krishna never disappears. But for the devotee, we celebrate the appearance and the disappearance. But for the Lord, we only celebrate the appearance. Similarly, we don't celebrate the departure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Nityananda Prabhu or Advaita Acharya. For the Vishnu Tattvas, we never celebrate their disappearance. And it's actually a very painful thing to talk about the Lord's disappearance. It's also very painful to talk about the devotee's disappearance. But we do celebrate the disappearance of the devotees. Sometimes people say, why are you celebrating, the disappearance? I can understand you'll celebrate the appearance, why do you celebrate the disappearance? We celebrate the disappearance because the devotee, the pure devotee, the servant of the Lord, has gone back to the Lord's eternal pastimes. And also when a devotee leaves, his full glory becomes manifest. When a devotee is born, nobody knows much about the devotee's activities or who is he. Just like for that example, take for example Jayananda Prabhu, or recently we have Pankajangri Prabhu leaving. When they were born, it seemed like in very ordinary circumstances, but when they left, everybody knew about their glories. And the leaving of the devotee also causes great intensity in the devotees who are left behind to carry on the mission. Just like when Prabhupada left, the devotees became actually very focused on spreading the mission of Srila Prabhupada. How is that? Because to please the spiritual master And now my only connection with my spiritual master is through my service to his instructions. When Prabhupada was physically present, or for the matter here you'll find out when Krishna was physically present, many of them took him for granted. Even Krishna, Prabhupada here, even some of us who don't have our spiritual masters physically with us, we may have taken the spiritual master for granted in so many ways. Oh, he's going to be around, he's going to be here to correct me. Or sometimes you also lead to familiarity. So this chapter of the Bhagavatam talks about how familiarity often leads to contempt. So unless you are on such a high level of devotional service, just like the gopis were, where their dealings with Krishna looked like they were too familiar with him. In fact, they even chastised him. Okay, we cannot imitate those things. So let's start. So today we'll be speaking from text 4. This chapter is entitled The Curse Upon the Yadu Dynasty. Okay? Naivanyata paribhavasya bhavet katanchin. Naivanyata paribhavasya bhavet katanchin. Mad samshrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam. Mat samsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam. Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu. Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu. Stambasya vanim iva shanti mupaimi dhamam. Stambasya vanim iva shantim upaimi dhamam. Naivanyata paribhavasya bhavet katanchin. Mat samsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam. Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu. Stambasya vanim iva shantim upaimi dhamam. Naivanyata paribhavosya bhavet katanchin. Matsamsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam. Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu. Stambasya vanim iva shanti mupaimi dhamam. Nivanyata paribhavosya bhavet katanchin. Mat samsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam. Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu. Stambasya vanim iva shanti mupaimi dhamam. Naivanyata paribhavosya bhavet katanchin. Mat samsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam. Antakalim yadukulasya vihaya vedim Stambasya vanim yivasanti mupaimidhama Naivanyata paribhavosya bhavet katanchin Mat samsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya veno Stambasya vanim yivasanti mupaimidhama Naivanyata paribhavosya bhavet katanchin Mat samsayasya vibhavanno vanhasya nityam Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu Stambasya vanim yivasanti mupaimidhama Naivanyata paribhavosya bhavet katanchin Mat samsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu Tasya vanim yivasanti mupaimidhama Ladies, Naivanyata paribhavasya bhavet katanchin Mat samsrayasya vibhavanno hanasya nityam Antakalim yadukulasya vidaya venu Stambasya vanim yivasanti mupaimidhama Word for word. Na, not, eva, certainly, anyataha, from another cause, paribhavaha, defeat, asya, of this dynasty, bhavet, there can be, katanchit, by any means, mat samsrayasya, which has fully taken shelter of me, vibhava, with its power, unnahanasya, unrestricted, nityam, always, antaha, within, kalim, a quarrel, yadukulasya, the Yadu dynasty, vidhaya, inspiring, venustambasya, of a clump of bamboo plants, vanim, a fire, iva, as, shantim, peace, upaimi, I shall achieve, dhamma, my eternal personal abode. Translation: Lord Krishna thought no outside force could ever bring about the defeat of this family, the Yadu dynasty, whose members have always been fully surrendered to me and are unrestricted in their opulence. But if I inspire a quarrel within the dynasty, that quarrel will act just like a fire created from the friction of bamboo in a grove. And then I shall achieve my real purpose and return to my eternal abode. Kindly repeat. Lord Krishna thought no outside force could ever bring about the defeat of this family, the Yadu dynasty, whose members have always been fully surrendered to me and are unrestricted in their opulence. But if I inspire a quarrel within the dynasty, that quarrel will act just like a fire created from the friction of bamboo in a grove. And then I shall achieve my real purpose and return to my eternal abode. Lord Krishna thought no outside force could ever bring about the defeat of this family, the Yadu dynasty, whose members have always been fully surrendered to me and are unrestricted in their opulence. But if I inspire a quarrel within the dynasty, that quarrel will act just like a fire created from the friction of bamboo in a grove, and then I shall achieve my real purpose and return to my eternal abode. Purport. Even though Lord Krishna wanted to arrange for the disappearance of the members of the Yadu dynasty, he could not personally kill them, as he had killed many demons, because the Yadu dynasty was his own family. One might ask why Lord Krishna did not arrange for them to be killed by others. Therefore it is stated in this verse, Naivanyataha paribhavosya bhavit katanchit, because the Yadu dynasty was the Lord's own family. No one within the universe was capable of killing them, not even the demigods. In fact, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that no one within the universe was capable of even insulting the members of the Yadu dynasty. What to speak of defeating or killing them? The reason is given here by the words of Mat Sangsrayasya. The members of the Yadu dynasty had taken full shelter of Krishna, and therefore they were always under the personal protection of the Lord. It is stated, Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke, Rakhe Krishna Mare Ke. If Krishna protects someone, no one can kill him, and if Krishna wants to kill someone, no one can save him. Krishna had originally requested all of his associates, along with the demigods, to appear on the earth to assist him in his pastimes. Now that his pastimes were coming to an end on this particular planet and would be transferred to another planet in another universe, Krishna wanted to remove all of his associates from the earth so that in his absence they would not constitute a burden. Since the powerful Yadu dynasty, being the Lord's personal family and army, could not possibly be defeated by anyone, Krishna arranged an internal quarrel, just as the wind in a bamboo forest sometimes rubs the bamboo together and creates a fire that consumes the entire forest. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has pointed out that ordinary people hearing of the adventures of the Yadu dynasty might think that the heroes of the Yadu dynasty are as worshipable as Krishna, or that they are independent controllers. In other words, people polluted by a Mayavada philosophy might see the Yadu dynasty as being on the same level as Krishna. Therefore, to establish that even the most powerful living entity can never equal or surpass the Supreme Lord, Krishna arranged for the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Krishna Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarvyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Krishna thought no outside force could ever bring about the defeat of this family, the Yadu dynasty, whose members have always been fully surrendered to me and are unrestricted in their opulence. But if I inspire a quarrel within the dynasty, that quarrel will just act like a fire created by the friction of bamboo in a grove. Then I shall achieve my real purpose and return to my eternal abode. So the Lord appears at some point in time. He wants to also disappear. Okay? The Lord appears for a particular purpose. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So the Lord appears by His own sweet will, and He also disappears by His own sweet will. Okay, we don't appear by our own sweet will, neither do we disappear by our own sweet will. So there's a tremendous difference between night and day. Okay? So we have to understand, often people, when they see the Lord's departure, disappearance, they start thinking, just like, even in the manner Krishna left, it casts doubts in people's mind. Is this really the Lord? I mean, why He has to leave this way? So therefore the commentaries of the Acharyas is necessary to understand. Therefore Prabhupada took great pains. Sanatana Goswami took great pains. Jiva Goswami took great pains. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur took great pains. Sridhar Swami took great pains to explain the activities of the Lord. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he makes a promise, Janma karme chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyakva deham punarjanma naeti mameti suarjuna. So he says, one who understands Janma karme chame divyam, my birth and my activities, in truth, in the proper perspective, in the proper light, at the time of departing this world, he shall not return, or he doesn't have to return back. Okay? So Krishna also says, Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamu pete tu kauntaya punarjanmana vityate. He said, even if you go to the planet of Lord Brahma, still you have to come down, Arjuna. But upon reaching my abode, you don't have to return. So Krishna makes many references to His activities. Then Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse? That fools deride me. What's the Sanskrit verse? When I appear in this world? Avajananti ma muda manusim tanumashritam. So Krishna says that mudas, the asses, people with the intelligence of asses think that I have assumed a material human body. When I come in a human-like form here, of course Krishna's form is always like a human form, right? But he says, fools deride me, thinking that my body is material. So Krishna uses very heavy language, right? Calling these people mudhas, thinking that the Lord's body is similar to my body, which is made up of all kind of kapha, pitta, very disgusting material, right? This body, as long as it's got a nice skin over this, it looks nice, right? When the skin is firm and tight, the body looks nice. But when the skin starts wrinkling and gets old, when the body gets old, that same attractive body becomes not very pleasing to look at. So they think, oh, Krishna's body is also like this because he's among us. So therefore, it's also said that when one is in the physical presence of the spiritual master all the time, he may start seeing, oh, the spiritual master also has to sleep like me. He's also got to eat like me. He's also has to use the bathroom like me. So he must be just like me. So this is how a foolish disciple becomes familiar with the guru, with the acharya, and start thinking, well, this person is just like me. And he becomes familiar and stop paying due respects and start committing offenses, and then his entire devotional life becomes devastated. So therefore, Prabhupada always told his disciples who were personally serving him, whenever you enter the room, you pay full obeisances to me. So sometimes disciples are thinking, if I'm in and out 100 times a day, I'm leaving the room, coming back, I still have to, Prabhupada? Yes, you still have to. Because if not, you will become familiar with me. So this may think like, oh, this is very ritualistic, Prabhupada. Each time I come, I'm just, I hold you in the highest regard. No, still you have to. So it's a very important thing. So now the Yadu dynasty, they were Krishna's own family, his own parivar, his own. Like Krishna said in the Bhagavatam, it says, Krishna varnam tusha krishnam sango pangarsha parshadam jagye sankirtane praye yajanti hi sumedasha ya Shishi Radha Nilamadav Shishi Radha Giridharis Giriraj Govindan Srimata. So it says Krishna varnam, Krishna will appear, Krishna varnam tusha krishnam, in a color which is, he's always chanting. Krishna will appear in a form who's always saying Krishna and Krishna, Krishna varnam. Or could also say in the color of Krishna, in the same category as Krishna, different ways the acharyas come on. Tvisha Krishnam, the color unlike Krishna. Sa anga, panga, parshadam. That Krishna comes always with his energies, with his associates, his limbs. His limbs are considered as his most intimate energies. His portions, his weapons, he will appear together. Krishna never appears alone. Krishna never appears alone. In fact, Prabhupada in one of his commentaries talking about Krishna, he says Krishna is not particularly attractive when he's alone. It's a very, very big statement. Prabhupada says Krishna is the source of all beauty, Krishna is the source of all opulence. So what do you mean, Srila Prabhupada, when you say Krishna is not particularly attractive when he's alone? It's a good point, right? People may say. But let me give an example. When you come to the temple, one day you see Radharani is not beside Krishna. What will happen to everybody? There'll be terror in everybody's heart, right? No, everybody will start looking at Krishna, but only start, where's Radharani? Where's Radharani? Right? So Krishna always appears with his energies. Because Krishna is only concerned about his devotees. No other concern Krishna has. Right? So when Advaita Acharya was crying to Krishna, Krishna said, my devotee is calling me, I have to go. Right? When Sudama came to see Krishna, he was like impoverished. You cannot describe the poverty of Sudama Brahmin. But Krishna thought his greatest wealth has come. His bhakti. Right? Even Sudama was so embarrassed to even offer what he has brought for Krishna. He thought it was insignificant. But Krishna thought that was the greatest thing. Okay, so Krishna always appears with this devotee. Then now it comes to a point, now all these people who have appeared with me, how are they going to leave? Now I can leave, no problem, but how can I cause all these people to leave back to me? Krishna is not going to leave all his devotees behind if he's going back. Right? Krishna won't be happy, right? So Krishna start thinking, well, I have to devise a plan. I cannot kill my own people. Doesn't look nice. People will criticize me. People are already criticizing me in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata, that I broke my word. I have to have some reputation. Right? Krishna broke his word. He said he will never take a weapon, but he took a weapon. Right? Yeah, but people still consider, because that could cause harm, anything, People say like, oh, Krishna never took a weapon, he just pulled up a chariot's wheel, so therefore that's not a weapon. Okay, but he broke his word that he will not fight. But he was ready to throw that at Bhishma Dev. So therefore Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? He tells Arjuna, you go and declare. The people ask, why Krishna didn't declare that my devotee will not perish? Why is he asking Arjuna to declare that my devotee shall not perish? Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Say, Kaunteya, you go and declare. People are saying because Krishna is more intent on fulfilling the word of his devotees than his own word. And also for those people who may doubt Krishna has broken his words, what is the use of his word now? Therefore he said, Arjuna, you go and declare, and I will make sure that your words are the absolute truth. Okay? So now Krishna is saying, okay, now I have to take all. So Krishna starts thinking of a plan. Of course, Krishna's plan. Krishna doesn't have to think of a plan. This was Krishna's plan. Okay, it just the Yadu dynasty was so intimate with Krishna, right? Especially you can see among all the Indian clans, the Gujaratis are the most familial. They are the most tightly packed family. I don't know if you have noticed that. All right? You may be a very distant relative. Let's say, oh, this is my wife's brother's cousin's wife's sister. But when that person come to America, they will treat them just like their immediate family member. So that nature is there among among the Indians. Indians are very familiar too, but among them, the Gujaratis are very, very tight. So the Yadus, Dwarka, Gujaratis. There are many Gujarati devotees here. I'm sure they can understand what I'm saying. All right, but so this tendency is there. So Krishna was also acting as a Yadu there. All right. So now Krishna is saying how I cannot kill my relatives just like I've killed Madhu and Kaitaba. I cannot kill like I killed Kamsa, or I've killed Aristasura, or I cannot cause the death of them like Duryodhana or Dushasana or Bhaumasura. I can't do that. Like Krishna, imagine Krishna goes around chopping up his relatives, like what he's doing here, right, to Bhaumasura. So Krishna devises a plan. Okay, now I have to start, the only way I can do this is I make them get rid of each other. Okay, so this is also an important point for us. How, of course, we know how this eventually leads to the offenses made by the young boys to Narad Muni and the sages. That's also a very instructive thing. It says that even the Lord's family is not exempt from offenses to the devotees. It's a very important point that the boys thought they will somehow their intelligence became polluted, right? And they go and jokingly tell Narad Muni and the sages, is this woman going to give birth to a boy or a girl? You know, thinking that these sages don't know the truth. So, and this offense leads to eventually, so it's also an important point, and a quarrel within the dynasty, and then they start killing each other by the reeds which are growing by the shore, which was actually the club of iron was pounded by and thrown in the sea, right? So it's amazing. Krishna, no matter, another point is, no matter what you do, the Lord's will is, you cannot frustrate the Lord's will. Okay? So that's also an important point. The Yadus became very powerful, and then earlier on you'll see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that some of these Yadu people, they were actually inimical towards Krishna. Right? Prabhupada makes a comment in one of his commentary, in our Krishna conscious society there are people in the dress of devotees, but actually are inimical. I don't know if you all have read that. So, when Prabhupada even was physically present, I'm sure there were people who were inimical towards Srila Prabhupada, who have taken initiation from Prabhupada, who worked against the will of Prabhupada. These are reality. These things are reality one has to deal with. This is the world, material world. We were trying to spread spiritual culture, the topmost spiritual culture in a world which is only prone to, at this point, quarrel and hypocrisy. Imagine what task is this, right? Age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So, therefore we find even among devotees, for the small reasons there's a quarrel. For the smallest of reasons there's argument. Therefore there's envy, there's duplicity. So that's the only way our society can be weakened. So Krishna says, I can create a quarrel and weaken the Yadus and cause their own demise. So we have to be very careful. Therefore Prabhupada kept emphasizing again and again, in my absence, the only way you can spread this movement and please me is to cooperate. You can have your different opinions. Opinions are always going to be there. Your opinion is going to be different than my opinion. Just like in a same family, the husband and wife may have a different opinion. What to speak of the brothers and sisters or the father and son, they may have a different opinion. But for the interests of the family, let's cooperate and do what is best. What is best for the family. So that's how in political circles they weaken a political party is by creating disagreement within the party. I was reading, interestingly, I've never seen this bumper sticker. I saw this. There was a donkey and it was in different parts. The head, the hind leg, the mid body and the foreleg. And they all partition. And they say, unify or die. So the Republican Party is now seeing that there's fraction. No, I'm not making a political point here, but they are also realizing, just like we realize, that the only way to break something is to create a fracture, a different to break the cooperation within a party. Okay, there's going to be ample different opinions. Even the acharyas have different opinions. But through our difference of opinions, if we cooperate to please Guru and Krishna, that is actually the greatest victory for all of us. As long as we are cooperating and seeing each other's contribution, sometimes we don't see a devotee's contribution. Right? Let's say there's somebody who's always cleaning the pujari room. You have not seen that devotee cleaning the pujari room. Let's say every day for 1-2 hours he's cleaning the pujari room, he's cleaning the altar, but he's never seen by any devotee doing it. Or maybe only the devotees in the pujari room. So one day somebody who's coming to the temple every day never sees this devotee doing any service. Then he starts thinking, wow, look, this devotee, he never does anything. Why is he not doing anything? Look, I'm coming here every day, chanting my rounds, I'm doing my seva. This devotee should do something. So sometimes we're quick to judge devotees. Just because we cannot see the devotee doing service. Right? So it's a dangerous mentality. So it starts from not becoming judgmental. And because only Krishna knows what's in the heart of this devotee. Okay. It's an important point. So it starts from cooperation. So there's a very valuable lesson here. There are many, many lessons in this canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but one of the big lessons is how even the Lord's family can be broken by argument and quarrel and losing sight of the real objective of pleasing the Lord. Okay. Like we can see Iskcon after Prabhupada's, even in Prabhupada's departure, there was so much strife. And Prabhupada was there to come to resolve all this strife, all these arguments, this competition. But Prabhupada left, the leaders were immediately aware that we have to really keep the society together, even though they were very young, because Prabhupada set the example. They became very clear to them, the only way we can keep Iskcon is the GBC be a collectively united body and be aligned with Srila Prabhupada's will. You see, those people who started deviating from Prabhupada's will, they became asara. That means they became useless. Just like a tree branch which is cut from the main trunk, it may look alive for a few days. It may look healthy, but then as time progresses, you will see it wilt, die, decomposing, and go back to the earth. So, this same lesson was there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita when some sons of Advaita Acharya deviated from the proper understanding and started thinking this is the real path. They became useless. They no more was connected to the parampara, so the spiritual potency became lost. We see that happen even in this short, 55 years of Iskcon, that has happened multiple times. People started to create their own upper sampradayas and this and that. We found that it never succeeded because Krishna's energy is only coming through the proper disciplic succession, the bona fide disciplic succession. So therefore even, you can see even, in every sampradaya is there. Right? Even in the sampradaya of Ramanujacharya, you can see that the parampara is going because they take great trouble in keeping the tradition alive, make sure that philosophically we are not getting contaminated. There may be difference of opinion, but we will continue the instructions of the Alvars and Sripad Ramanujacharya's tradition. Similarly, we have coming up, tradition is coming through Lord Brahma. We have to follow the, coming through Madhvacharya, through Madhavendra Puri, through Sri Chaitanya, through Rupa and Sanatan, to Jiva Goswami. We have to keep the tradition. In Kali Yuga, if we don't take great pains to preserve the tradition, everything will be spoiled. Because the nature of Kali Yuga is to fight and bicker and, insult and offend. This is the nature of Kali Yuga. So we have to take great pains to maintain that. All right? So we'll stop here. Any questions, any comments? Yes.
From one of Srila Prabhupada's letters. Quote, regarding Kirtanananda, I cannot allow him to become Keith again. He is my spiritual son and I shall never allow him to fall down. When I return, I shall drag him forcibly and make all right again. Anyone who has at once come to me has become my beloved son. Temporarily, one may display some Mayic affliction, but that cannot prolong.
So your question is? Yes, so sometimes Krishna uses his own devotees to do certain things which are inconceivable, which may be in public opinion abominable. Just like Lord Brahma, Lord Indra. Even in the Christian tradition, who's the one who defied Christ? Judas? So some opinion in the Christian circle, they say he's the most advanced disciple of Christ. They say, because he became subservient to the will of Christ, at risking his own stature and reputation. So this is the mood of Lord Chaitanya, right? Whether you trample me or embrace me, you're my Lord. Okay? So therefore, it's best not to judge. Even a devotee falls down very miserably or does something abominable, it's better not to see, oh, this devotee, this. The proper attitude is, what's the lesson in there for me? That's the proper attitude. Because sometimes Krishna uses most intimate people to give us a lesson. That doesn't mean that that devotee is not dear to Krishna anymore, but that also shows the level of surrender of that devotee. His service to the Lord is so pliable, and he will do anything for the sake of the Lord. Okay, that's how we should see. We see devotees drifting away, falling away, doing unimaginable things. Okay, this is probably the Lord's arrangement. It's not for me to opine, it's not for me to judge, but there is a lesson for me in this. Let me learn that lesson. Okay, Krishna achieves many things at one time. By one action, Krishna achieves many, many things. Right? Just like when he went to Draupadi, he asked for what's in the Akshay Patra, give me the Akshay. Just eating one grain of one little spinach, he satisfied the hunger of Durvasa Muni and the 10,000 disciples. Yashmin Tushti Jagat Tushti. So Krishna's one activity, by speaking the Bhagavad Gita, he achieved so many wonderful things. Okay? So we shouldn't, in the brief history of Iskcon, we see many, many lessons for all of us. So therefore it's important to study the history of Iskcon. Okay? If you really want to study a tradition, you study the history. Why is there history is taught in the universities? Because if you really study history, like, recently I took my citizenship test after all these years, and it's quite fascinating how America is at its present state, how the founding fathers, the vision, how they put checks in place, even the recent insurrection. Imagine if these checks and balances were not there. Right? So we need to study the history of Vaishnavism. We need to study the contributions of the great personalities in our Vaishnava tradition. Then we can really learn, because their life becomes an example for us to follow. There's tremendous value. Why are so many disciples writing books about Srila Prabhupada? You may be thinking, oh, this is just some of their memory they're recollecting. But by studying those books, reading them, you can see so many examples in situations how Prabhupada acted, how Prabhupada resolved the conflict, what Prabhupada said. This is tremendous value in this. In Krishna's activities, there's tremendous value in this, apart just from, you can say, but there are other also lessons, apart from purely devotional reasons, why Krishna acted the way he did. All right? Any other questions, comments? So, Sarvabhauma Prabhu, you have any questions?
The Vaishnava leader is sincerely trying to serve Krishna, but is not perfect manager and so forth, and maybe gives an instruction which is not practical. Someone that's following a more junior devotee might have a choice to cooperate or not cooperate. So how can we support someone that's doing their best, but at the same time, do the right thing? It seems like some devotees end up being in a position of leadership just out of duty, and they may not have been trained, so somehow the idea of not criticizing or is valuable, but it's tested in such situations.
This is a dichotomy we have. Sometimes you see some leader is acting inappropriately, but at the same time there's a principle that one has to follow the instructions of the leader. Sometimes he may ask you to do some things which are not ethical. So if a leader asks you to do something which is not ethical, which breaks the law, that's a red flag. Okay? Because Prabhupada said, doesn't mean you're a devotee, you are aloof from the law of the land. Or if a devotee asks you to do something, a leader, who in your opinion doesn't look like a very intelligent thing to do, doesn't look like the right thing to do, Prabhupada often devotees will write to him like this. Prabhupada just say, follow your authority. Because sometimes, unless it's like blatantly obvious that this is breaking the law, this is sinful, what I'm going to do. But in the case where if you're questioning, is it the right thing to do, doesn't look like the right thing to do. Prabhupada say, follow your local authorities. But if it will come in time, the inadequacies of this leader eventually will become revealed. But it's not for you to go and proclaim and, say, oh, this person is asking me to do this. Sometimes many things, even in our scriptures, certain things which were asked of certain devotees, they did it, even though it may look like it was not the right thing. In your opinion, because your opinion also could be clouded, right? Your opinion probably is clouded. And so somebody's clouded opinion, making a judgment on another person, is probably also, there's room for error. Okay, I'm sure, Krishna Kripa Prabhu and all the early devotees, devotees are young, they were asked to do sometimes things which were not very logical from other young devotees who were in positions of leadership. But that was the best situation we had. Make do with what you have. Okay, but you don't break the law of the land, you don't act immorally, you don't act unethically. So Lord Chaitanya also said that the ornament of a devotee is his etiquette. The ornament of a devotee is his etiquette. And that etiquette is attractive for Krishna. Achara. So one has to be good in his behavior, even with devotees seemingly who are not competent, leaders who are not competent. That's the best way to conduct our devotional life. When things get really out of hand, collectively, devotees can get together and raise their grievances through the proper channel. Not act independently and, So it's a tough situation. I agree, it's a very tough situation in Kali Yuga. Cooperation is a very, very rare commodity. Cooperation, collaboration, understanding, patience, wisdom, this is a very rare. Okay? Hope Prabhupada, he had what he had. He had devotees who are in their 20s who are leading the movement. Can you think about what is going through in the mind of a 20-year-old? Right? Alrighty? Any other question? Yes, Prabhu. Okay, so that's good. But there are cases, like Give one example. My daughter used to go to the school in Durham. So there was another classmate of hers whose mother developed a friendship towards my wife, and then she saw my wife wearing tilak and going to the school. Oh, are you part of the Hare Krishna? I say, yes. You know, are you the people, are you the guys who in the airport, used to sell books, and when people gave some money and they were owed the change, they were never given the change back? So this was called, in Iskcon circle, this was called change-ups. That somebody gives you $50 or $100 and your book is $10. Oh, I don't have change. And you see, some people even took off and running away with the $100 bill. So things like this may have been told by some senior devotee, somebody gives you more money than this. But this was becoming a norm in those days. And it became a reputation. So just the actions of few devotees can taint the reputation of a movement. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya was very, very careful about how he behaved. Very, very impeccable in his behavior. Because people tend to judge a movement by the conduct of some leaders or even some of the rank and file members of the movement. All right, thank you all very much. We've gone overboard. Grataraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nithai Gaur Premanandi. Holy